He just Canadian mouth shut.
No, I didn't even say anything. She came. She just looked at me and started laughing.
And now I see him like just twirling around and stuff.
He was spinning in circles in his chair, making goofy faces. He couldn't keep his bearing. He was looking at me, making me laugh.
Okay. All right.
It was pretty rough today, but yes, sir, but
Alright, so the next speech, which I'm about to give you guys, deals with terrorists and, you know, why we should not use torture tactics. I kind of just want to give you the other side of this subject and kind of get your opinions on this matter, and hopefully, you know, maybe influence you with some new knowledge that maybe you didn't have before. I'm going to do it without the aid of any visual presentations or anything like that, because I really want you to focus on the subject matter. Since the war on terrorism began, the United States has captured or killed more than 5,000 terrorists. Many of those captives have intimate knowledge of operations concerning terrorist cells around the world, but exactly how that information is obtained is under scrutiny. Many of the methods used have amounted to what some people would call torture. That is why it is important that as a nation we maintain a moral high ground. What are you fucking doing?
Get the fuck out of here.
Why did he come back? Why did he? We gotta think of something serious. Yeah, that is pretty sad. Sir, you call me?
yes, ma'am.
Alright, so this next speech, which I'm about to present to you, deals with terrorists and the tactics that we use to interrogate them. I'm doing this without the aid of any visual presentations to get your full attention on the subject matter, and hopefully throughout this speech, you know, you'll also provide some of your input. Since the war on terrorism began, the United States has captured or killed more than 5,000 terrorists. Many of those captives have intimate knowledge of operations concerning terrorist cells around the world, but exactly how that information is obtained is under scrutiny. Many of the methods used have amounted to what some people would call torture. That is why it is important that as a nation we maintain a moral high ground, and that we do not resort to the same behaviors as a terrorist would use. The actions of our leaders and those sworn to uphold it can severely impact American troops and civilians living or working abroad. Many concerns are raised when these type of tactics are used to gain information, and that the consequences can vary. Torturing another human being should never be an option, regardless of the situation or circumstances. Kind of the way that I would explain this is that, you know, we do not live in a world where, most of you have seen that show 24. You know, we've all seen it on Fox, you know, and most of the time during the course of the show, you know, you'll have special agents who are trying to detonate bombs that are about to go off in 30 seconds. Well, we don't live in a world where those situations are really, you know, the situations that we deal with are a little bit less complex. A memo released by the White House detailed some of the interrogation techniques used. Waterboarding, sleep deprivation, and slapping were just some of the methods applied in trying to get suspects to divulge information. According to former CIA Director Michael Hayden and former Attorney General Michael Mukasey, the brutal interrogation methods were disclosed repeatedly in more than 30 congressional briefings and hearings beginning in 2002. You know, when you hear something like that, it's, you know, our leaders are involved in it, and, you know, and what does that say about us as a country, you know, where we promote human rights, and where we, you know, it's kind of that theory, you know, do as we say and not as we do. It weakens our stance as a nation, you know, and it keeps us from being able to protect our citizens in a manner that we would see fit. As leaders of the free world, we are subject to a higher standard of moral and ethical behavior. What sets us apart is the fact that we value human life and are willing to protect it at any cost. torture is a direct violation of everything that we believe in. Now, a more humane alternative would be to use methods that don't involve physical pain, mind control, drugs, good cop, bad cop techniques, and verbal intimidation are just a few of those alternatives. We should also allow the U.S. system to effectively deal with suspects, and if the laws and regulations that we have in place aren't working right now, well then we should work to change those things. Torture should never be an option. We must look at other avenues that offer more positive results. Banning the use of torture and implementing less severe tactics would allow us to deal more effectively with terrorists. But by not using torture, we strengthen our international relations with other countries. We set a precedent of how prisoners and suspects should be treated around the world. As citizens of this great nation, we have a long tradition of advocating for human rights. We as a people should not forget that we have that duty to adhere to those standards. We should also not accept torture as an inevitability of the world that we live in. We should speak up, not just for ourselves and for our country, but people that can protect themselves, people that don't have the right to speak their minds and be able to present their ideas to their government. You should speak out loud and let your elected officials know that you will not stand for these type of interrogation methods. There are things that you can do. You can write to congressmen, and they'll listen to you. In the post 9/11 era, it will always be necessary to fight terrorists. However, we must do so in a way that protects legitimate human rights. Do not accept torture as a reality of our society. In conclusion, I would like to leave you with this quote from Oliver Wendell Holmes. He was an American. He was part of the Supreme Court, and he was one of the justices. He once said, "It is revolting to have no better reason for a rule of law than it was laid down in the time of King Henry VI. It is still more revolting if the grounds upon which it was laid down have vanished long since, and the rule simply persists from blind imitation of the past. Let us not repeat our mistakes of the past, and hopefully one day we can change our regulations and rules concerning terrorists." Thank you.